Okay, so we do have our in-studio guest, and we're so happy she's here. Teresa Mast is from Sarasota County. She's running for county commission, and we will bring her on here. I think you're...
Yeah, yep, there we go.
So here's Teresa Mast, and I think we're going to just kind of put you in the hot seat right here, Teresa, right here in the middle. And great red dress and excitement going on here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Well, I appreciate
How much time do we have with you?
Well, you
Just,
have...
I have...
I think
we
you're
have a
in
little bit of
charge.
time,
I think
yeah.
you're in charge of the time. I'm not. So
Well, it probably depends on our Zoom guest,
Got
because
it.
she's coming from the Fox News, and that doesn't mean that you can sit through that if you want. If she happens to pop in, we're going to pop to her. But
Jamie, we got pretty ladies coming in and out. I mean, we're the luckiest guys here.
I know.
So,
Look at this.
come
They're
on.
fighting over
So,
us, tooth and nail.
Unbelievable.
So
I didn't see any fighting going on.
not in your race, not in your race. So how do things look, and this is your what, second or third time running for office?
This is my second time. I ran for school board
Right. Okay.
and ran against a 20-year incumbent. Had the closest race there's ever been in Sarasota County against a 20-year incumbent, and fell short. Completely had the bug, and just waited for my time when I felt like it was right, and this was right, and I'm very honored to be able to say that I will be the next seated Sarasota County Commissioner for District 1, so it feels
Yeah.
really good.
Good. Well, we're certainly glad that you've decided to continue. You know, so many people run one time and they get kind of a bad taste, right? And I know
It
that
is
you,
brutal.
I know
It
you
is
got a bad
brutal.
taste after that school board race because it was so close. And
It actually taught me a lot, though. I think it was very beneficial because I think you learn very quickly that it is a very cutthroat process, as you know very well. It's not something that is for the lighthearted.
me, no, I don't.
And it's something that you have to be very willing to give it everything you have. You have to have the support of your family. You have to have the support of, I call the very tight inner circle, and just be very, very diligent about how bad do you want it, and
Well,
how hard are you willing to fight?
You know, when you and I have talked about it in the past, I always say there's the three areas of your life that politics can really impact, both positively and negatively.
Mm-hmm.
It's your personal, your professional, and your political. And win or lose, I always say that I like to try to run campaigns that people come out all in good shape in all three, because I've had candidates who have lost their political campaign, and yet they've excelled in future politics. Their business excelled, their personal life excelled. And then I've had people who have won a political race, but they did it in such a way that they really kind of hamstrung their way going through. And the race that you've run here in Sarasota County, I think positions you well to do very well in all three areas, because you ran this race with an incredible amount of integrity. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That was my goal. I really sought very, very hard. My team was absolutely phenomenal. I cannot say enough about the love of my life of 40 years. He was with me every step of the way. Our daughters were extremely supportive. I had an incredible political team that fought really hard, and we made sure that the integrity of our race was a very clean race. We made sure that I was well represented in my values, my faith, and obviously my political views. And so I'm very excited.
Well, and you know, like 2 months ago, I spoke to you. It's like, well, when you're a commissioner, I really want to talk to you about opening Midnight Pass. and here we are now, 9 feet of water flowing through there
And
every
look, God
couple
did it
times a
for
day.
us,
It
right?
got open.
It was happened naturally.
We still have some work to do to make sure it stays open,
Yes, we
and some things like that. So we're going to appreciate your help with that. And but it's just kind of funny how politics can change so quickly. You know,
Overnight.
That storm is indicative, kind of, if you want to, an analogy of how quickly politics can change. And have you seen results from your race yet?
Well, I have not looked at the numbers, but
I was trying to bring
I know-
them up.
I know my husband is over there.
I was trying to bring them up, but
I know my husband is over there looking at numbers.
I
and
didn't.
so
When I first brought it up, Come on around, John. Listen, this is not we're not TV news. So when I brought up the site, it has County Commission District 3, but it doesn't show County Commissioner District 1. So I don't know if you have results or if you've seen results that you want to share.
Think that
But
probably not going to show because her write-in dropped.
oh, okay.
So that I don't know if they're going to tally the votes.
So
anyway.
so you're in.
I'm in.
Oh,
in.
so how did I miss
she's
that
in
news flash?
She's in like
Like, well, here we have our first winner of the night, ladies and gentlemen. The first winner of the night, Teresa Mast,
It's
right here.
contagious.
You saw it first.
It's contagious.
And
so.
I was sitting here trying to think. I was like, I know she had a race, but like,
still voted for her.
I don't see
I think-
it.
I
I don't
think
see
it's-
the
So
results.
did I.
I think
voted
it's
for it.
So-
I think it's very similar to Ron Cutzinger's race. So
Okay.
because those I believe have already been called. Again, I don't want to misspeak, but
Well, we called it. We've called it.
So
You're the
it's-
winner.
it's official.
We're making you the winner. Well, congratulations!
Thank you
Like I
very
can't
much.
believe that I'm sitting here like what did I miss? And so thank you, John, for weighing in. You're a voice of wisdom as always, and or most of the time. Well,
we'll give him 90%.
90%. Hey, listen, 90%. Any guy, any husband will take 90%. I'll tell you that right now. Jennifer is over there laughing. If she was here, she'd probably be on your side and never give me 90%. She'd say no, 89, 88 at most. Yeah.
Teresa,
There we go.
I'm being now that you're elected again and you lost, what advice would you give for people entering into politics, like the new generation coming up? What advice? Because you did lose, like so did Bill Clinton.
Absolutely.
And then what Jamie always says, and I actually agree with this, even when you lose, you win.
Oh, I wholeheartedly would say to anybody who wants to get into it, first of all, my hat is off to anybody who's willing to do it because it truly is a huge commitment. You do put your life on hold. You do put a lot of what I would call your day-to-day privacy, the ability to be very thick-skinned. I would encourage the young to become very involved in politics across the board. Learn as much as you can, be ferocious about it. Read, engage, ask questions. Jamie and I would speak frequently about just, I don't want to say nonsensical things, but processes. The ability to be able to say, be smart about how you represent yourself because you need to be true to yourself. So don't try and make people happy because not everybody's going to be happy.
Sure.
Be very genuine. Be very transparent. Anybody who knows me knows that what you see is what you get. Take it or not.
I just met you, and I'm glad I voted for
and
you.
I
so.
am very appreciative of the opportunity to live in a predominantly red county because I will tell you, even in red counties, there's a lot of work. We have a media that is very biased, and unfortunately, they don't always tell the truth, and so they skew stories very negatively, and you have to be willing to absorb those and not react.
Absolutely.
And you have to be willing to take your hits, and although you want to correct it, the best thing you can do is just not give them a platform at all. And so I would encourage people, be genuine, be very, very true to yourself, and you better be able to put it all on the line.
And how did you get involved? Did you go through the party? Did you get through the local Sarasota County party? Or how did you kind of dive into this entire political realm?
I have been very pleasured since I was 18 years old to be very involved in the Republican Party. Ronald Reagan was my first president I ever got to vote for. That was so cool. And I've always been very involved. I've served on committees. I've served as, vice chair of the REC. I've made wonderful friends along the way. And for me, it was about putting my team together first.
Okay.
So I put together what I called my dream team that fit my personality and my campaign manager, my political consultants. And I took the opportunity to say, this is how I put a plan together. And I started 2 years ago. And I said, this is how it's going to roll out. This is the amount of money I think I'm going to have to raise. This is the process. I was always willing to listen to objective, reasonable conversations like,
And you come from a background, a business background. I read up
Absolutely.
woman-run
Yep,
entrepreneur.
female majority
So,
owned company,
yeah, exactly.
37 years. And I said, you have to be very tenacious about it. You got to be smart. You got to be willing to say, okay, we're going to divert from the plan slightly here because this is what's in our best interest. And you have to be willing to say, whether it's 4 a.m. or 12 midnight, the hours have to be put in.
Was this a family decision or was this a your decision? So, was this something you woke up and talked to your family and was like, I'm doing this? Either you're on board or you're not on board, or was it more of like a family, like, hey, mom, wife, let's, as a group, how did that go down at the kitchen table?
Well, it actually started much more privately than that between John and I.
Okay.
And
John's your husband.
yes, and I'm very blessed to be able to say that his response immediately was, whatever it is that you want,
Great.
I'm here to support you. The discussion with our daughters was completely different because both of our daughters have always been very supportive, but they were like, Mom, are you sure this is what you want to do? Are you ready for this?
Because the school board, that's a little dicey. I just moved here 4 years ago, and I read up on the school board, and
Yeah,
whoa, that
and
was, yeah.
the school board race, they went after my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I reminded them that I'm running for office, they're not. And so I tried to draw very healthy boundaries, which the media was not respectful of. And so that was a really good lesson for me. And this time around, when I started to do my campaign, I made it very clear. I said, I'm running for office. And I continued to say the same thing over and over and over when they'd say, well, your husband this or your husband. I said, he's not running for office. If you have a question for me, I'll address it. If you don't, then we move on. Mm-hmm. And I had to constantly remind them of where the line was at. And so I think when you are involved in politics, yes, you've made that choice. And so there is some transparency necessary. But I think it's also very important to draw that line and say, you cross this line and this interview's over.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really good to remind them of that because they'll try and constantly chip away at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So are you glad you didn't win the school board?
Absolutely. It was a blessing in disguise.
I was going to say.
And there were many times when I said that, I was like, okay, that was a blessing in disguise. But it has been very good to, like I said, I went through that process and it helped me to be prepared for this race. It
Well, I'm
really
glad
did.
that you won because it's so important to have commissioners,
Yes.
competent commissioners. You'll be surprised when you have 2 or 3 incompetent commissioners in other counties, and wow, how they can mess up a county.
And
So-
I think it's a very serious responsibility that people need to take it. And I've heard people say, well, it's not a real job. And I go, oh, it's a real job. It's 3 jobs. And I think it's very important that people understand that you really are putting literally everything on the line. You have to if you're going to do a good job.
Because I also talk to business owners, small business owners, and they're like, Chad, listen, I would love to run, but I have a business. So what advice would you give to the entrepreneur that is sitting there and they're like, how do I have time to be into politics? I also have to put food on the table and I have to run my business. And this is where I think it's always, nobody could just get into politics if they have to go run a company. So how did you do it? And I applaud you for doing it. I mean, this is like...
It's a balance. My
yeah.
husband had to pick up a lot of slack, and he did it with grace. I did tell a lot of my clients that this is something that I'm going to do, and they were extremely supportive. I've had a few that are like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? But I really said to them, this is something that I am going to commit to 150%. I'm putting my business secondary. So I think it's very, you said, what do people need to understand?
Yeah.
You either need to have a company that you can have a second in command that can then pick up a lot of slack.
Sure.
Or be able to be in a position that you are financially stable enough that you don't need to rely on that through your campaign because you need to be so focused at all times.
I mean, and it goes back to, I look at even in Sarasota City and Sarasota, the pay for politicians, it's a full-time job. I'm always one to at least bump up their pay a little bit more. I mean, because you're giving up so much time. And unless you have a means to support yourself, you can't support yourself on a commissioner's salary, or you can't support yourself on a city council salary. I forget exactly what it is, but I want to say it's like $30,000, $40,000 as a city. I don't know what the commissioner's salary is, but I can't imagine it's enough to support a family. So if you're going to donate all your time and give back, I mean, these are things that I think we need to talk about as a Sarasota County. So
It's nice that you say that because I'm not sure if the majority of our constituents would agree with you on that because I don't think they understand what it takes to be an elected official. And so I think the education and the process of being able to explain this really is a full-time job. And it's actually more than that, because you don't just serve as the Board of County Commissioner, you serve on multiple other boards. You serve, and those are all like requirements of the job. They literally divvy out who's going to be on which committee, which council, and you serve on anywhere from 10 to 20 plus what you're doing.
Sure.
And so I don't think that the average citizen really has a grasp of the reality of the time, commitment, and the ability to be able to be a representative of almost 500,000 people.
And also when you step outside, you go to Publix or you go to Winn-Dixie or you just go to anywhere you go. You go, hey, Commissioner, can I talk to you for a second? Okay. You're always on the clock. So it's not like, and I always compare, politicians to teachers. And I always think teachers should get paid more too, because your brain is always working. You're always doing your lesson plan. As politicians, you're always working. And if you don't get paid enough, then corruption can come in, or somebody can buy a politician and they have to answer to that person. So give a living wage to a politician, give a living wage to a teacher. I think they're on the same path, because you're always working. You're never stopping. I mean, when you step outside, you're always going to be commissioner. And you're always on the spotlight.
I think that the best commissioners and or elected officials are the ones that understand it really is a civic commitment.
Absolutely.
And I think that the majority of ones that are really good at what they do have that in their heart, and they understand it. And so the commitment that they make, that is part of it. And so they say, no matter what the pay is, I'm doing it for the right reasons. I'm doing it because I do believe in my county. I do believe in a conservative value. I do want this to be better for my kids and my grandkids.
Absolutely.
And so that is a big part of it. And I think that's why they put up with so much of the rhetoric.
Yes. And if you look at, are we?
No, we're good.
Okay.
Unless somebody's in the Zoom.
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
But this is what makes Sarasota so great, is like, you're a highly educated woman. You're come from great family.
Thank you for identifying me as a woman, because I actually am a woman. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I didn't really
And
have
I know
any-
I'm
yeah.
a woman,
So-
and I'm very proud of it.
Highly educated. And this is what makes Sarasota a premier county in
Yes, it
Florida,
does.
if not the country. I mean, our elections are great. I have to give a shout out. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but our county election commissioner,
Ron
Ron Turner.
Ron Turner. I met the guy
He's
once
amazing.
or twice. I hope he never leaves.
He is top of his class.
I mean, I hope
really,
the guy never leaves.
Well, the statewide supervisor of elections association elected them their president. If that tells you anything about the caliber of Ron, and
Yeah.
He's very experienced.
Just-
He carries
and
himself
he-
so
We should
so
be the
well.
model.
Here's
the
the thing,
model
like
for the rest of the country.
I've talked to him numerous times about things like election fraud and concerns I've had through my 30 years in politics, and he will take the time to tell you, okay, yes, these were some things that have happened in the past, but in Sarasota, in particular, Florida first, and then in Sarasota, he's even tougher than the laws of Florida. And Florida
He
have
is.
the best election laws. I tell people all the time, we have some of the greatest access. You can see the amendments to the Constitution that are here. It's easy to get on the ballot as a candidate.
It is.
It's easy to get a ballot initiative to change the Constitution on our ballot relatively easy. New Hampshire, they don't even allow it. You don't have a citizen method to get something in their Constitution. It's only through the legislature. And then we have the most access to actually voting. We have our ballot accessible, especially in Miami-Dade County, in more languages than anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, you can have ballot access in Miami-Dade County, regardless of your language. And, you look at early voting, mail-in voting, election day voting, all of those things equal the ability for people to vote in a free, fair, and transparent way. So Ron Turner, kudos to him. His results are always some of the first up, and that's why I always like to kind of have Sarasota as a barometer of where we are and what we're doing. So I think that may be where I have. Nope, I have Clay County up right this second. So
I will say the
There we
other
are.
thing about
There.
Sarasota County is that the number of days that we have for early voting is, although it's quite arduous, having been out in the heat when it's
Yeah.
like, primaries and you're praying for shade, but Ron really does a phenomenal job, and so do all the poll workers and the volunteers and the numerous amount of individuals that give of their time so that we have such what I would call progressive voting privileges as far as like the ability to access them. It's a very pleasant environment. For the most part, they're extremely civilized.
Oh, totally.
I mean, it's just, it really is quite an experience to be a part of
Almost,
and to see it.
Collegial. Like the blue team was on one side and the red team was on the other side, and they were like giving each other lemonade, and they all had their pamphlets, and it was just
right.
very nice. It was very civil, and I was very proud.
You know, so we're looking at some election results, and so these are past results here, and I'm just going to go by memory of what I just saw because the results aren't in, but I like to look at counties like Clay, which is a suburb of Jacksonville. I looked at Duval. Those results aren't up yet. Sarasota. And it looks much more like a 2016 or better trend for Donald Trump than 2020. Even in Sarasota, we had, it looks like a 23,000 vote win in 2020, where we had about a 34,000 vote win in 2016. And those results in Georgia that you're looking at, we'll get to in just a second. And then same thing in Clay County. We're looking much more towards, we've already have a 30,000 vote margin.
Yeah.
And that's with early and mail-in ballots and not election day voting. So I guess the proof will be in the pudding, so to speak, to see, Democrats are claiming, Republicans cannibalize their election day vote. And I don't think that's what happened when we saw the number of elections vote, especially at the 9 a.m. report, where more than 500,000 Republicans have voted in Florida and 230,000 Democrats by 9 a.m. this morning. And so, so I think you're seeing this is going to grow in these counties and be a better result than we saw in 2000.
And I know that as of like 5 o'clock, I had gotten a report, and they were saying that across the board in Sarasota County, and I won't break it down by Republican, Democrat, NPA, other, whatever, we literally had like 82% of all voters had voted, and that's incredible. And I'm telling you that speaks volumes, I think, for the culture, not only of our country and the temperature of what's going on and how valuable this election is, but it also has a lot to do with the work that Republican Party did to get the vote out.
In the last 25 years.
Literally, it's been one of those things where it's like, it's okay to trust the vote by mail. And that took a huge hurdle to get Republicans past that, because for years they're like, no, I want to be there on the day to put that ballot in and watch it. And so this was huge for us in Sarasota County.
Yeah, and Chad, I saw you kind of sneaking a peek at the Georgia results there on, we're cheating a little bit here, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a couple of TV stations up. We've got some computers
it's
going.
Like the red zone
and you
of
can kind of
politics
see
right
that
now.
I kind of nerded out a little bit while Chad and Teresa were talking. So thank you for letting me nerd out for a second. But in Georgia right now, with about 500,000 votes in, 500,000. Now, that's probably about 10% of the votes we're going to see in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
We're going to see about maybe 5.3 million, 5.5 million. And what we're seeing right now is Donald Trump with a huge lead in Georgia.
Jamie,
with 500,000. He's got 130,000 vote lead out of 500,000 votes. So he's currently leading in Georgia by 23 points. Now, when you look at the map, there's a lot of red counties, right?
Yes.
Not a lot of blue. Not a lot
don't
of big
get
blue
excited
counties.
yet. Don't get excited.
So yeah, 130,000 vote lead is in those counties is not insurmountable for Harris. However, I think we're seeing a bigger win. So we have our Zoom guest. So, Teresa, do you mind sitting in with us?
I tell you what, I thank you for the time. I've got my next stop to get to. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, well,
Jamie,
thank you
as
so much
always,
for
it's
coming.
a delight, not only as your friend, but as a fellow Republican, to enjoy some time
I
with
can't
you.
wait to see the work you do as a county
I'm
commissioner.
super excited to see what the future holds for all of us.
Well, thank you so much.
Especially for our president. So I'm super excited.
So thank you, and
Thank you
have
for
a
having
great
me.
rest of the night. Enjoy the party.